Hi everyone, welcome to Bible Blast and Lesson 17. We're going to finish up our account of Joseph. When Joseph arrived in Egypt, he was 17 years old. And by the time he stood before Pharaoh, he was already 30. So 13 years had passed, and that time was split between his service in Potiphar's house and his years in prison. Well, just as Joseph had said, there were indeed 7 years of plenty. But now he was entering the time of famine. And the famine was so bad it spread throughout the entire earth, even back in Canaan, where Jacob was along with Joseph's brothers. So Jacob said to the boys, "Go to Egypt. I've heard that you can buy grain there, and you need to do this so we can live. Only do not take Benjamin. I've already lost Joseph. I could not bear the thought of anything happening to Benjamin." And so the brothers obeyed their father, and they went to Egypt. Now when they got there, they did not recognize the man in charge, but he recognized them. And look what they did. They bowed down before Joseph, just like Joseph's dream had shown. And he decided to test his brothers. So he said to them, "Who are you and where are you from?" And they said, "Well, we're from the land of Canaan. We've come to buy grain." And he said, "No, you are spies. You've come to check out the land." And they said, "No, my lord, we are from Canaan. We've just come to buy grain." And he said, "You're spies. You've come to check the weak places in the land." And they said, "No, my lord, we are true men. We are 12 brothers from Canaan. Our father's back there with our youngest brother, and one brother is no more." And Joseph said, "No, you are spies," and he threw them into jail for 3 days. Well, after 3 days, he let them out of jail, and he took Simeon, and he bound up Simeon in front of his brothers. And he said, "You go back with the grain, you feed the hungry in your houses. But then you must come back with your younger brother so that I know that you're telling the truth. And if you come back with him, then you will live." And so he sent them on their way. Now when they got home and they opened up their sacks of grain, they were shocked to find their money back in their bags. And they said, "Oh no, that man thinks that we're spies. Now he's going to think we're thieves." And they were afraid. But their father said, "Well, perhaps it was just an oversight." Well, time went on, and the grain was almost gone. And Jacob said to the brothers, "You need to go back to Egypt and buy more grain." And they said, "No, we can't go back. We can only go back if we take Benjamin." And Jacob said, "No, I've lost Joseph and now Simeon's gone. You're not taking Benjamin." And he wouldn't let them go. But finally the grain was all gone. He had no choice. And so he gave Benjamin a hug, and Judah said to his father, "I promise, Father, I will be responsible for the lad." And when they got to Egypt, Joseph saw that Benjamin had come. And so he told his servant to bring all of his brothers to his house. When the brothers got there, they were arguing amongst themselves. And they said, "It's because of the money in the sack. That's why we've been brought to his house." And they saw the servant, and they said to the servant, "When we got home, all of the money was back in our sacks. So we brought that money back, and we brought more money as well, so we can buy more grain." And the servant said, "Oh no, I received your money. God has just blessed you, so you can be at peace about that." And he brought Simeon out to them. Well, Joseph came out, and a meal was provided, and he made sure his brothers were well fed, especially Benjamin. But he said quietly to his servant, "When they leave the town, I want you to go after them, and you're going to put the money back in their bags, and you're going to put my silver cup into the sack of the youngest. So when you catch them on the road, you're going to ask them why they repaid evil for good. And then you're going to insist that you go through their sacks and you're going to find the cup in the youngest one's sack, and you'll bring them all back here. And so when the brothers left the town, it wasn't long before the servant caught up to them and stopped them and said to them, "Why have you repaid evil for good? Well, my master's cup is missing, so one of you has it." And the brothers said, "We wouldn't take the master's cup. Why would we do that? When we found the money in our sacks, we brought that back, and more money to buy grain. So nobody would have taken the cup." But the servant insisted on going through all the sacks. And of course, when he got to Benjamin's sack, there was the silver cup. Well, the brothers, when they saw that it was in Benjamin's sack, they tore their clothes. This was their worst nightmare. Now they would never be able to go home to their father. And they went back to Joseph's house, and they said, "God has seen the wickedness of your servants. Now we're all going to have to stay here and be your slaves, including Benjamin, who had the cup." And Joseph said, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. I'm a God-fearing man. You can all go home peaceably to your father. I'll just keep Benjamin as the slave." Well, when they saw that he was determined to keep Benjamin, Judah spoke up. And he said, "My lord, when you asked us who we were, we told you the truth. We told you that our father was back in Canaan with our youngest brother. And when you asked us to bring the youngest brother, we told you that he couldn't leave his father because his father would die if he left. And when you insisted that we bring him, we did that. We've done everything you asked us to do. But I promised my father that I wouldn't let anything happen to the young lad, because if I did, I knew it would kill him. So please, please, my lord, let the young lad go, and I will take his place. I will stay here, and I will be your slave." Wow, what a difference from when Joseph was being sold into slavery and pleading with his brothers not to do this thing. Now here we have Judah, who is quite willing, very willing in fact, to take his brother's place. Joseph couldn't take it anymore. He told all of his servants to leave the room. He was weeping, and he said to his brothers, "I am Joseph." Well, when they heard his words, they were afraid at first. And he said to them, "Come close to me. I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold to Egypt. Now listen, don't grieve or be angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me here ahead of you to save your lives. The famine has been in the land for 2 years, and there are 5 more years to come. God sent me here ahead of you to preserve your families on the earth and to save your lives. Therefore, it wasn't really you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me an advisor to Pharaoh and lord of his household, and a ruler throughout the land of Egypt. Please go to my father and tell him what has happened, and ask him to come here with all of your wives and your little ones, and I will take care of you." And so the brothers were so overjoyed, and they were all reunited, and they hugged Joseph. And Joseph sent them on their way with big wagons so they could bring all of their belongings. And when they got back to Canaan and they told their father what had happened, he could hardly believe his ears. All he wanted to do was go and see his son after all those years. And so Jacob went down, and all of the wives and all of the little ones and all of the brothers. And just as Joseph had said, he took care of them. I hope that you'll come back the next time, where you hear all about what happens to Joseph's descendants in Egypt. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.